Hello traders, this is Rich from Tradesight. This is our market preview for the coming session. This is going to be for Tuesday, October 22nd, 2013. We had kind of a mildly higher day after everything's all said and done here, but we're starting to develop some key things on the technical fronts that we'll look at when we get to the charts. Internally, the market was just okay. We had essentially flat advance declines, even though we made some advance on the Nasdaq side. The NQs were up 12 handles on the day, and the advance declines on the Nasdaq side were negative. So that's a little small divergence. You know, one small little divergence doesn't make a trend, but that's definitely something that we want to make note of if this little mini trend persists. But let's move on and take a look at the major contracts in the futures right now. All right, so here's a look at the ES futures. ES futures did push up pretty aggressively in the last couple of sessions. We're getting close to that 8-ace level at 1750. That's going to be a pretty big area, and if I had to bet, we'd probably wind up being repelled by it, at least on the first touch. The other technical development today is that we're 8 days up now in the setup phase of the seeker. So we're going to look for either a pause or a retracement to the downside, starting as early as tomorrow. A lot of times you get that 9th candle up that finishes it, but you really only need 8 to the upside as long as the 9 candle prints. Up here, the 8 candle is higher than both the 6 and 7. The other notable development here intraday is that today's close was below the open, so we've got a dark body candle up here. Key levels overhead, obviously 1750 to the downside. The gap window here from Friday at 1730. Then below that is going to be this pivot area at 7-ace at 1718, 1720. Looking at the NQ futures that were slightly more relatively strong on the day. Pushed up to the 7-ace level on the Murray Math box. Starting to get a little extension here above the 10 EMA, but the big development, no doubt, is that we printed the 13 exhaustion candle on the seeker. So now we've got a 13 locked in here. It's not great, a great deal of range here above the 1 candle. The 1 candle is all the way down here, and we got our 13 here. So the extension's okay. I think this is probably going to wind up leading to more of a kind of a capping of the advance with a little downside, rather than probably an outright reversal. But we can't rule that out, and we have to see what kind of velocity might develop if we do turn to the downside and start to make good on this reversal warning from the Tradesight Seeker. So key levels to watch for the next day. Let's take a look at the 8-ace level. 34.37 is going to be a big level. If we do get up to that area, there's going to be a real strong resistance there. To the downside, the gap from Friday, 331.11, and then below that going to be key support here at the 6-ace level where the 10 EMA starts to come into play. So those are going to be the levels for tomorrow to watch. The Dow on the day was just kind of marking time here. It was actually lower on the day. We're 8 bars up now. 8 right now is not higher than 6 and 7, so we're going to need a stronger day tomorrow to really kind of lock that in and get that potential inflection back to the downside here, perhaps down to this 5-ace level. But for now, we're still kind of just still drifting higher. Key levels overhead at 7-ace, and then 8-ace at 15.625. Support's going to be Friday's low is going to be key support, and then below that the 10 EMA. Moving on to the TLTs. A little lower on the day, but we're still short-term positive. We're going to have key support here at the 4-ace level at 106.25. Resistance is going to be 5-ace at 107.81 for now. All right, here's a look at the cumulative advanced decline lines. We haven't looked at this in a couple of weeks, but the important thing here, the Nasdaq still has this nice positive bias to it that's really essentially been fairly uninterrupted. The New York Stock Exchange side is just trying to break out above this resistance area. It hasn't really been able to do it with any authority yet. It kind of drifted above it late last week. Today, we obviously, with the negative advance declines, didn't add on to it at all. So it's in a real precarious place right now where we either make or break this. So we'll check back in and make sure we take a look at this again tomorrow to see if we can get some positive action going here. Here's our 10-day trend, which is right now is just kind of pretty neutral, just a little bit above one. We're essentially kind of in the midpoint here between the oversold and overbought threshold. So nothing new here from the 10-day trend. We did have a pretty high reading today at 1.33, so that's going to definitely skew the average going forward. Kind of buffers a couple of those low readings that we got last week, but for now we're still pretty much neutral here. And you can see as far as risk on, risk off goes, there's definitely been some accumulation of the TLT, as evidenced by the cross here. We haven't broken out to a new high, even though the S&P is knocking on the door of a new high here on the move. The previous high water mark on this risk on and risk off metric is still in place, so I have to see a little bit of resumption of this. Right now, if this kind of keeps sliding sideways, that means the market's making new highs, but people really aren't that enthusiastic about it just yet because they're still bidding up treasuries. All right, now looking at the individual sectors on the day. Let me move my labels on the wrong spot. There we go. So you can see it. On the day, the BTK here, the red line, definitely saw some weakness here, some profit taking, a little rotation out of the biotechs into the true techs. Netflix may kind of solidify that a little bit further tomorrow. We'll have to see how that plays out, if people buy into that or not. But definitely, we're potentially seeing a lower high develop here in the BTK, but it's still unconfirmed here. We do have this high, this lower high, and we broke lower here, but we don't have a confirmed lower high here until we undercut that first little pullback off the high, which we haven't really done just yet. The SOX and the BKX, the banking index, was higher on the day to different degrees. They were both at least modestly positive, but the XAU was a fairly decent performer, and which is kind of sneaky. So the XAU was a decent performer along with the bonds, which were okay and didn't really give back too much in light of the market trying to push higher here. So kind of just a pause day here with not a lot of risk being put on this at this point in October. All right, so looking at the sectors ranked from best to worst, best sector on the day was the XAU. Computer hardware was a good performer. That was definitely helped by Apple. We're going to hear from VMware after the close, so we can see some more action in that average tomorrow. Transports had a nice day in light of a lower Dow on the day, so that's a definite positive for the bulls. When you look at the transports, the next thing you want to look at this point is you want to look at the oil services. Oil services were not great. They definitely underperformed the market today. So while the Dow Jones transports outperformed the broad market, the oil services underperformed, so that makes that kind of a push. BTK was the last laggard on the day, certainly a source of funds, and all the defensive stuff was kind of middle range here. The pharmaceuticals were in the middle of the ground, utilities in the middle of the ground. So just kind of a somewhat defensive day actually, even though the hardware index was fairly strong. All right, here's a quick look at the indexes, the different sectors. Here's a look at the XAU. XAU is only 3 days up, made a new high on the move. On a closing basis, essentially just matched the previous high. Next level is going to be this static trend line here. That's the green line. It's going to be much more important than that 3/8 level for sure. Transports on the day outperformed, made a new high in the move, but here's the bugaboo: 13 days up on the seeker count and also into the 8/8 level. So this is going to be a very, very strong level of resistance here in the transports. BKX on the day just kind of hanging here. 8/8 was expected to be strong resistance, and we've had 2 days here where it's definitely in play. 65 and 5/8 is definitely the level. So if we get above this, keep in mind that we're going to be 9 days up and also into the static trend line here, which is going to add to the resistance of the 9 days up in the seeker run. Here's a look at the oil services. Oil services are still flirting with this plus 2/8 level. Remember, the big levels are the 0/8, the 4/8, 8/8, plus 2/8, and minus 2/8. Here we're at plus 2/8 and definitely feeling the result of that. We've got an inside day going here. So if we break out this range to the upside, it will be notable because it'll be range expansion to the upside, and will also, if we close above it, frame shift this box to the upside. And finally, here's the BTK. BTK, big down day, potential lower high here. Can't call it that until we take out this low all the way down to the 4-ace level. We're looking for support there. If we take that out, this 4-ace level is going to be less support than the first time for sure. So just keep that in mind as we go forward with this chart. All right, folks, as always, thanks for listening. This has been Rich for Tradesight.